Are you ready to rewind? Take a nostalgia-filled ride back to a simpler time. It's Acid Wash Memories, a retro pop culture celebration. And now your hosts, Joe Murata and Michael Quinn.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 49 of Acid Wash Memories, a retro pop culture celebration. Today we're talking all about Toys R Us. My name is Joe Murata, and alongside me is a guy who doesn't want to grow up, Michael Quinn. How you doing there, Michael?
Howdy.
Are you a Toys R Us kid?
Yeah, I'm Jeffrey the Giraffe himself.
You should see him.
That's a big reveal.
We have a big boom mic here so he can get his neck into the microphone. Anyway, hi, sorry. We are a retro pop culture celebration. Giraffe jokes aside here. Apparently we do those. And if this happens to be your first time joining us, well, if you're not interested in Toys R Us, you can skip back. In fact, you can go through 48 other episodes. Available where, Michael Quinn?
In the archives.
In the archives. And for all of you returning customers as well, thank you so much for being here. And hey, whether you're a first-timer or a long-timer, why don't you follow us on Twitter at AWM Podcast and also join our Facebook group. It is called Acid Wash Memories. Very creative group name.
It's the most innovative group name we've ever thought of.
And it's on Facebook. You join it, we'll let you in, and then you can talk to a bunch of other people about old crap.
Yeah, a bunch of other Jeffrey the Giraffe enthusiasts.
Yes, absolutely.
Jeffrey, you've redesigned your stores, retrained your staff. What's next?
Well, we are lowering our prices too.
So thank you guys for being with us here. We're going to talk about Toys R Us. Quinn, Toys R Us, we remember the catalogs.
Yeah.
The commercials.
I mean, it really was like heaven for a child.
Oh my God, it was like Eden.
Here we are at Toys R Us.
It was unbelievable back in the day.
The exhilarating experience, of stepping foot inside, it was like almost inconceivable, the collection of toys, games, anything else.
It was kind of like, in a sense, it had like a Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory vibe to it. It was just like, wow, look at all this stuff.
Look at all this stuff.
I want all of it.
At its height, Toys R Us operated over 1,500 locations, brick and mortar, in 30 different countries, and was a true juggernaut of the retail toy industry. Today, there are 2 locations in the United States anyway. 2 freestanding locations, Quinn.
I can't even believe there's any because that was a pretty profound... We're shutting the doors like it was everywhere.
Time is running out. We're in the last days of Toys R Us history going out of business liquidation.
They propounded the notion that kids didn't want to grow up, but as we did, the store itself just kind of has faded into our memories, Quinn.
It's upsetting, honestly.
It is upsetting.
Like, I always thought, I'll take my kids to Toys R Us or whatever.
I know.
And I'll still get to go in the store and, mess around with all the crap.
Exactly. Yeah. So today, we're going to mess around with the crap. We're going to talk about the history of Toys R Us, how it became such a virtual monopoly on the toy industry for a period of time in the retail sense.
Put all the toy stores around our area out of business.
Absolutely, it did.
Yeah.
And we'll also talk about the downfall, but we hope to conjure up some memories. This is a retro podcast that we do here, so we want you to think of when you were a kid, maybe, and you walked into a Toys R Us, what you thought. You let us know on Twitter and on Facebook. But Quinn, most importantly, what is a store?
Well, it's a building of some kind that holds items depending on what they're selling.
Okay.
It could be a grocery store. It could be a clothing store.
Sure.
Bait and tackle store, a general store.
No, general, yeah.
And
they sell generals in there.
But they don't have a lot of those anymore. So it might actually be a foreign concept to people because of Amazon.
Just saying, yeah, Amazon has really taken over. But yeah, obviously Toys R Us was promoted as the biggest toy store there is, and it was for a long period of time.
It was not like an exaggeration. It was what they said it was, right? Like when you were a kid, you knew Toys R Us, that was the end all be all, right?
Absolutely.
It is the biggest toy store there is. She wins.
They were everywhere, and they were very big. They were like warehouse sized.
They were huge. Everywhere, you say.
Yeah.
Would you call that ubiquitous?
Oh, they were the definition of ubiquitous.
There you go.
I didn't know a single sector, I guess, a location where the Toys R Us was in the vicinity.
Territory.
Yeah, they definitely had a good job. They were sprinkled in enough places. They covered a lot of ground if there was a Toys R Us.
They were like a Kmart.
Yeah.
You could go to your local Kmart or your local Sears. You would have your local Toys R Us.
A lot of time they would share plazas, or even what was crazy about a lot of them, they'd be in shopping plazas.
Like strip malls.
Or sometimes they'd be in the parking lot of the malls. to emphasize its bigness, it would be like separate. Did you ever notice that? It was never like attached, but it'd be like a few feet away from the plaza. Like, no. Toys R Us is over here.
Separate entrance, sir.
Separate entrance. Yeah,
Exactly.
not connected. Yeah. Never in malls.
Never in
outside malls.
Outside of malls, but never in. And that gave them a certain prestige.
Yeah.
It did. It seriously did. Because for me, I'm going to be honest with you, before we get to the history, for me, Toys R Us was the special event for me because my mom's default toy store was in the East Brunswick Mall.
The KB?
The KB toys, which we'll talk a little bit about later. Beyond that, the toy section in like a Kmart or whatever department store we visited, you know?
Yeah. I feel like my parents didn't have a monopoly on where you could get toys. Like we would go to all of them. It just depended where we were. If I was looking for, something that maybe KB didn't have.
Sure.
Toys R Us, like we knew they would have it kind of thing, right?
Was it your favorite? Because it was still my favorite, even though I didn't get to go
because
often.
it was one-stop shop. Like you knew you could find the toy you saw in something or your friend had or whatever.
You can get a bike there too if you felt like it.
I mean, it went that far though. That was like that was how vast it was. Like riding stuff, like anything that a kid could want.
Yeah.
Period.
That's why the commercials are so effective because they were true. They really were if you were a kid.
It really was like. I have to imagine that when it started to show up, like started to be the mainstream, that it was like a revelation because a lot of times like the toy stores were very like mom and pop, small town. It's like they had what they had and that's all you had a choice of.
We had one on Highway 18, as we both are familiar with, called Myers, and that was like a toy and hobby shop.
What was interesting about Myers, though, was that it was pretty big.
It was big, but it wasn't
very
Toys R Us.
large, but you're right, it wasn't Toys R Us.
It wasn't Toys R Us.
Next time, let's just come to Toys R Us.
So without launching into a history of either toys themselves, hoop on a stick.
Ball in a cup.
Yeah, ball in a cup. Or retail, the concept of, we'll just pick it up with this, okay? The first toy store. Now, this was actually opened not here in the United States, but in London in 1760.
It actually makes sense because London was the center of Western civilization
culture
during that time period.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is pre-war, pre-Revolutionary War, that is. And
I should say industrial. Western civilization.
Good way to put it. It was opened by a man named William Hamley. No relation, I don't think, to Michael Hamley.
No.
And his name is Michael Hamley!
And the name of the store at the time was Noah's Ark. Later on, it simply became known as Hamley's, and those of you on the other side of the pond are probably very, very familiar with this place because it had a 7-floor flagship store which opened in 1881. That's over 100 years, by the way, from the first one on Regent Street.
So I guess like there was like a strong, even back in the 1700s or whatever, like maybe toys were like, they were that small time that somebody got the bright idea. What if we just get a gigantic space and just fill it up with toys?
That's basically what it is. 7 floors is absurd if you think about it, right?
But industrial England during that time, like the beginning of the industrial, they were starting to get the technology to build that, like in the late 1700s.
It's true, and they never came up with better food, which is just the strangest thing amongst
they
all
didn't
that.
upgrade the food with the buildings and the trains and all this
really
shit.
Didn't.
Right?
Oi, mate, you have something against Stargazy Pie, yeah? Fish and chips.
Today, Hamley's operates over 100 locations still. 15 of them are in the United Kingdom.
So if you want to come and play, pop down to Cardiff St David's Centre, where Hamley's lives today.
But in the United States, where we are, the earliest major toy store was founded in 1862, so that's Civil War era, by a German immigrant known as Frederick August Otto Schwarz.
That's a long name.
It is. And his first store was in Baltimore, okay? But in 1870, he opened a location on 765 Broadway in New York City.
I know where you're going.
If you remember his name, Frederick August Otto Schwarz, right?
Yeah.
F-A-O Schwarz.
There's a place where dreams come true every day. Because at FAO Schwartz, you can make friends with a bear or test drive a race car.
Question, because I really don't know. Is it still there?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. It's like a landmark. Like I doubt. Like, but you never know, right? New York is always changing.
Now, this was on Broadway. It did move various locations within Manhattan, but it settled on Fifth Avenue, where it is to this day, and where it is famously featured in movies such as Big. There's a big scene in Big with Tom Hanks.
Wasn't it in Home Alone 2 or something?
No, it wasn't. Duncan's Toy Chest.
But it's the same thing.
It's fake. Yeah, but they didn't really film it at FAO Schwartz.
Okay.
The storefront was in Chicago or something.
Well, of course it was, because it's Home Alone.
Because John Hughes. Yeah, exactly.
Here we are, sir. Duncan's Toy Chest.
In the 2000s, there were 40 locations of FAO Schwartz. So no, they were never the biggest, even at their height.
That's interesting because as a kid, my understanding of FAO Schwartz was they were so damn special that they were only in one location. Like you had to go to New York.
That's what I thought.
You don't find an FAO Schwartz elsewhere. Like you have to like go to the one. It's like the mecca of toys or something.
When I was a teenager, I was surprised to find out that there was one in New Jersey, up in North Jersey.
Excuse me?
Yeah, I think it was in Paramus maybe or something.
I didn't even know that.
Now, did you ever go to the one in Manhattan?
I think my mom always, like every Christmas, she's like, "Oh, we're going to go." And we never did.
Oh, you didn't get to go.
Maybe we went.
Oh man.
Oh, you know what? Maybe when we went to Rockefeller Center that one year, maybe we went, but I forgot or something. Like,
how could you forget going to FAO Schwartz, man?
Because I was going to Rockefeller Center, and that probably took my attention a little bit more.
I went as a kid.
Saw the tree and everything.
I saw the tree there when I was on a date with my wife and two other people. You know, Bill.
Yeah, Bill
and his lady. We went to New York on a double date, and we did go walk around FAO Schwartz. So I went in my 20s as well. It was the last time I was.
Did it still hold up?
No.
Yeah.
Not really.
I feel like, you know what's funny about FAO Schwartz is like what it was hyping up, like this toy megastore or whatever. I feel like the existence of Toys R Us kind of subdued the attraction of FAO Schwartz, because like, well, if there's a toy megastore in every town, it doesn't even like matter.
I mean, it wasn't as vast. Like, FAO Schwartz is very vast, very specialty. It was like boutique, but it was big, and it was cool. And if any of you have ever been to the New York, specifically FAO Schwartz, let us know your stories. Today, there's still 6 of them. Which again, I don't know where they are. I didn't look that up.
Doesn't feel necessary. Like I feel like the FAO Schwartz has done such a good job as coming off as like, well, we're the like super exclusive, like
Manhattan.
It's a special thing if you come here. I really think they only need one location. They'd be fine.
Well, and we may get to that point. You know, the way things are going. Also in the USA, Harry and Joseph Kaufman founded the Kaufman Brothers Company in 1922.
Not related to Andy.
No relation to Andy, as far as I know, anyway.
Is that how you talk, my man? Was see, Mr. Lawler? See, Mr. Lawler, you don't have any brains. I'm from Hollywood. I have the brains.
First, they were candy wholesalers. Wholesalers, bear in mind. Okay, you sell to businesses that are retail.
They're not just selling out of their store or anything.
Right, yeah. And then they switched their focus in 1946, that's post-war, to being a toy wholesaler. Now, in 1973, the Kaufman Brothers Company ended their wholesaling and decided to get into the retail market in the exploding shopping mall scene, which we covered the history of the mall.
Yeah.
And in the early 70s, that was like all the rage, right?
Well, I mean, it's easy money. I mean, tons of people walking around this place with 1 million stores. You put your store in there, you're going to get traffic.
Right. And these mall owners or lessees or whatever, they needed businesses to fill up all this retail space. They needed people. So it was fairly easy in the onset, you know, with new malls popping. Oh, I got a store, I'll put it in there.
Right.
You get a good deal. So the Kaufman Brothers shortened the name of their toy store that was found in shopping malls simply to KB.
Oh, that's them? KB?
Kaufman Brothers.
Can't find that popular new toy? If it's hot, then KB's got it.
I didn't even know that's what KB stood for.
There you go.
Because KB,
we're here to
like
educate.
The mascot was like a toy soldier kind of thing.
Yeah, it wasn't as good as Jeffrey.
No, it definitely wasn't. Now, KB, I have thoughts
Michael.
on KB.
Go ahead.
So, KB toys, right? Did you ever feel like they were like way more jank than Toys R Us? Like they're always crammed. There's always like shit hanging from the ceiling, because they like can't fit everything or something.
Yeah, no, you're.
Like,
I think you mentioned this in the mall episode, and you're right.
It's true, right?
It is true.
You go to the desk and it's like tiny, and it's like, what do you want? And like, you know what I mean? Like
a rude employee.
Yeah, and there's always shit on the floor everywhere. Like it's like such a freaking mess.
Things falling over by themselves. You know, like boxes just falling off the shelf.
I seem to remember that would happen when you were in there. You'd hear something fall.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
Let's just go into TJ Maxx or something.
It felt like it. As an adult and like thinking back to it, I always felt like it was intentional. Like it's just stuffed with toys. Like it's got toys coming out the door, like to make it feel like it's got so much stuff.
Well, I don't know if it's intentional for aesthetic. When I think they're just trying to sell as much merchandise as possible.
Right, but
I don't think they're trying to give off this garage sale
there
look.
There definitely is a way to convey that you have what people want.
Sure.
And one of those ways sometimes is to overstuff the shelves. It is true.
There is.
That's like a method. It's like a sales tactic, right? Because you look in the door, you're like, wow, that's a lot of stuff in there. What is in there?
You're correct. The same way they promote, hamburgers and fast food commercials, they always show like the nice fat side of it to the camera.
The bread's all puffy on the top, and it's always crushed when you get it.
It's a big deal.
Here at Wendy's, our hamburgers may be crushed, but they're fresh. And isn't that more important? Huh, you dickhead?
In 1979 alone, KB opened, within one calendar year, 40 locations, and they quickly became the fastest growing toy company in the United States in the 70s and 80s.
Due to the mall, because they were in every mall in America.
Correct, and they proudly promoted themselves as the toy store in the mall.
Right.
That's like what they were. And by 1999, they operated nearly 2,000 stores. Now, Quinn is right. KB is much smaller than Toys R Us.
It's always shoved
because it's in a mall,
in a little hovel,
a nook.
Yeah,
it absolutely is. But it was
fluorescent lights. It's always way too bright.
It was
blue carpet.
But I'll tell you, man, they had a lot of stuff, and they had it at a good price, and that's one of the things my mom liked about it. It was cost conscious in there.
Yeah. But to be fair, I think, our subject matter here, Toys R Us, I feel like they were no slouch on competing on price.
Oh, they weren't. No.
Because they were doing like the Home Depot style, where it was like we have pallets full of fucking toys, like so it's cheaper.
Listen, when you walk into a store and you see the rafters, you know you're getting a deal.
Yeah,
it is pretty much just known.
Yeah, it's like we didn't spend money on the ceiling. We're just we got pallets from China of all these stuffed animals. You want one? It's like $1. Like, you know what I mean? Like
that's pretty true. Today, by the way, there still are over 400 KB in existence, but obviously, despite the pioneering nature of Hamleys, the prestige of FAO Schwarz, and the convenience of KB, there's one store, Quinn, that sticks out in the hearts and minds of several generations, and of course that is our subject of the day, Toys R Us.
Yes, Toys R Us.
How the hell did we get there? So we've established that Toys R Us is not the first toy store.
Right.
We've established that other ones were successful.
Would you agree with me that they were probably the most successful in their heyday or whatever?
Absolutely. Oh, tons of hay, man.
Yeah.
Hay is for hoses. Ha ha.
And one guy that had the hay was a man named Charles Lazarus, who was born in 1923 in Washington, D.C.
Who wasn't a giraffe. Just making sure.
He was not a giraffe, and neither were his parents.
Yeah.
They owned a bike shop, however, so they had business experience. Mr. Lazarus served in World War II, and then he returned back to D.C., and he opened a business where he began selling baby and children's furniture. And why did he do this? Due to the baby boom that was going on post-war. So that's smart.
You hadn't brought that up yet, but it makes sense why toy stores exploded after the war, right? Because there was a baby boom.
There were tons of kids.
There was a lot of kids, and they wanted toys.
Exactly. And guess what? If there's one thing kids still like, I can tell you from experience, they still want toys.
Oh yeah. I mean, talk to any kid back then or now. It's the same driving force is what's the next toy, right?
Exactly. I want to play with that. I want that. But he was selling baby furniture and children's furniture. He named his store, what do you think of this name? Children's Bargain Town.
Sucks. It sucks.
No hesitation there.
That blows. That doesn't convey happy and fun. Children's Bargain Town. I feel like you're talking to the parents there, not the kids or your customers.
But it's for furniture, so I mean, I get it, but
still.
Still. Through this, he noticed that parents, though, because they also sold accessories and toys and stuff, he noticed, parents don't really have to buy furniture too often.
Yeah, they buy a crib and maybe a bed for their child.
Right, a dresser.
Yeah.
But their kids keep growing, and as they outgrow their 2-year-old toys and their 4-year-old toys and their 6-year-old toys, they keep coming back for toys. You know what? In the 50s, he's like, I'm going to just do a brand new business here.
Just only the toys.
Yep, and here's a direct quote from Mr. Charles Lazarus.
The toy business was kind of an accident. I started out by selling a few baby toys and realized the customers didn't buy another crib or another high chair or playpen as their family grew, but they did buy toys for each child.
Mm-hmm. So you'd have repeating customers and not just somebody in there. Either we're just about to have a baby and we need a crib right now and we'll never come back.
Right, because if you have another baby, you're probably just keeping the crib.
Right, exactly.
I did, because they're expensive.
Right.
So in 1957, his first toy-only store opened in Rockville, Maryland. It was known as Toys R Us.
The world's biggest toy store is Toys R Us. The biggest selection, Toys R Us.
Wow, I got the name right on the
on the first try.
That's good.
Now, do you know why it was Toys R Us? Because his name is Charles Lazarus.
No way. It's actually like based on his name?
Yeah. Instead of Toys R Us, Lazarus. Get it?
That's amazing.
That's
I
what
never
it
even
is.
would have thought of that.
Yep. And he came up with the distinctive backwards R.
Yeah.
To make it look like a kid wrote it, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what
the
it is.
iconic, the rainbow colored, like it looks like the play letters, like the blocks.
Yes, it looks like children's blocks magnets or whatever.
Yeah.
It's much better than Children's Bargain Town.
That stunk. I don't like that.
Hates it. And soon after opening, it received a mascot.
Please don't tell me it was something. It was like some creepy clown or some shit.
No, it's Jeffrey, but with his original name.
Oh no,
Dr. Giraffe.
Get out of here! No, come on.
Dr. Giraffe.
To be fair, Jeffrey the Giraffe, the eventual name, it's not exactly creative. It's
it's alliterative.
What name goes with Giraffe? Jeffrey. That works. Like it feels like somebody thought it up in 5 minutes. I always thought Jeffrey the Giraffe was like a lazy name in the first place. But
you're not even a big fan. You're very, very hard to please when it comes to names and slogans today.
You got to get it right.
Children's Bargain Town. Yeah. The focus of Toys R Us, as we've talked about, was very simple. All toys, all the time. Yeah. That's it. You walk at pallets from China, like Quinn said.
Just way too much.
It's $1. You want it?
Yeah. And I think that's probably was the business model too, right? It was like, well, if we buy just like a Home Depot or whatever, if we buy all this shit on a pallet, it's cheaper. We can charge less too because
you run thin margins.
Yeah.
Because you rely on volume.
Right.
Absolutely. 100%, Quinn. Now, Toys R Us was known as a category killer. I'll explain what that means. It's a retail term, I guess. So a category killer is a retailer that specializes in one specific category.
Right.
And because
in this case, toys.
In this case, toys. And because of kind of what we were just saying with the pallet joke that we're making, but really what it does is they take advantage of their buying power, their inventory, and their low pricing. It's a competitive advantage over a department store, for example, of the time especially, because they are not focusing on one category.
And department stores didn't even have volume. They had a lot of variety, but not volume.
Correct.
Like, if you went to Macy's for like a shirt or something, they might have like five versions of the, copies of the shirt or whatever, but that's it. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like it can run out.
Exactly. Yes, it can run out. Some other examples just to give you guys a feel of like category killers, like a Home Depot is a category killer, right? Or Best Buy in the electronics, or Barnes & Noble was, in books, obviously. Books and sandwiches now.
Sandwiches?
But anyway, Charles Lazarus, you might not realize that he was around this long. He was the CEO all the way until 1994.
Oh, wow. It's like a long career.
Long career. And he was the chairman of the board until 1998. And he lived, Quinn, until 2018. Whew. At the age of 94.
So he saw the end.
He passed away the day before liquidation sales started.
Wow.
And we'll get to that, of course.
But I mean, he wasn't like involved in the business by the end.
No,
right?
he was done for like 20 years at that point.
Yeah, so it's like he made his money. He didn't give a shit.
He didn't give a shit. I wouldn't either if I were
sold the place so they can run it in the ground for all I care.
I tried, guys. Yeah. I changed the name. We got rid of Dr. Giraffe.
Yeah.
But anyway, as the 50s became the 60s and then beyond, some changes in pop culture reflected in Toys R Us. And what I mean is, let's think about maybe something major, Quinn, that really rose to prominence in the 50s. Can you think of something? Can you think of something that maybe kids were involved with and families would gather around and look at that really exploded in popularity in the 50s? TV, Quinn, yes. Now we have a visual medium to promote toys.
Yes. I mean, those Saturday morning cartoons, they definitely push the toys,
right? And every show, as we've talked about so many times, is sponsored by some guy or another with some product to peddle.
Yeah.
And
now you could have Jeffrey the Giraffe sponsor your show.
That's what I'm saying. So if you're on during like a kid's day part, like Saturday or Sunday or something, you certainly are going to put commercials on. And then not only that, you have television programs that start merchandising, that especially happened in the 60s and 70s.
Right. Very much in the 70s.
Very much in the 70s.
And it exploded in the 80s, of course.
It absolutely did. And that's one of the... it's just we see this so many times with this post-war bit, and that's why it's a bit of a running joke on our show, folks.
Yeah.
But we really do see that a lot of these things, Quinn, started happening after World War II.
Right.
Technology and pop culture converge, and things change.
Well,
and
I mean, it's what comes with a long peacetime, too. You know, when every country's not fighting each other, you know, generally everyone lives pretty well.
That's a good point.
You know,
so I mean, things did really well. The movies would be advertising, you know, everything became a commercial, and Toys R Us was a benefactor in that. Another thing too, the Toys R Us catalog.
Oh my God, the Toys R Us catalog was like the Bible of toys.
Who amongst us does not remember the Toys R Us catalog arriving or picking one up somewhere?
So here's what I want to say about the Toys R Us catalog.
Absolutely.
So first of all, it was like a magazine you didn't even have to order. They just sent it out to anybody, I guess, who went to a Toys R Us once or something. Like, I don't even know. I feel like it was like in the Sunday paper, so it was like a circular style.
I definitely remember seeing the circular version in the Sunday paper, yeah.
And I remember that there was a point with the Toys R Us catalog where it was so popular every year that a week or two before you would see like ads on TV.
Oh, you'd be sure to look for
in
it.
the newspaper the week before, the Sunday before, they'd be like, "It's coming!
It's coming
like, next week. You will have the Toys R Us catalog," and be like, "Oh my God! Like it's coming! It's coming!" Like I'd be looking forward to it. I remember my dad get the paper that morning. It's in there, and I'm just like scouring it.
I used to read this Sunday mornings with the funnies and all that.
Yeah.
This was part of it. You know,
I would the whole Christmas season. I would just always have it open or on my like little kid desk or wherever it was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's here. The Toys R Us catalog in the paper Thursday. Get your scissors ready. Help is on the way.
Here's one from 35 years ago in 1988 where they're selling the Nintendo Power video game set for $149.
And see, I find it interesting as early as when did you say this was?
This is November of 88.
They knew, like, front page the Nintendo.
Front page.
The video games, like, took over on this shit.
Absolutely.
Like at some point, right? There was like, it was almost like half of the catalog was devoted to video games and the other half was like the toys.
Absolutely. You open it up and there's a ton of NES games being advertised.
And bicycles.
And it's just what a great time this was. And we're doing one from when we were very little kids.
that Magnum 44 X2 Night Glow thing. Like I had that. I literally had the same thing with the loop-the-loops.
There you go.
It had little cars on it. Oh my God. I remember all of this stuff.
Folks, you should check this out. You can find it on archive.org. Just search for Toys R Us catalog 1988.
Oh, yeah, and it had the cross part where the cars could run into each other. Oh, my God. That was so great.
We got the Master System in here. We got the Atari 7800 in here. And I know we're audio medium, folks, but we are well aware of that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you're reading fucking magazines on a radio show, by God. Shit.
There's also the Matchbox sets. Those are fun.
Yeah.
Kenner's starting lineup action figures.
Lineup and the like action sets where it'd be like G.I. Joes on some kind of like vehicle
the
or
mobile
something.
command.
Yeah.
Again, folks, we know you can't see this, but we're encouraging you to look it up because you can also look. But they were also getting into like board games and stuff. There were tons of board games.
I mean, it was funny because as a kid, you don't know all the board games yet.
Right.
Like you're learning as you go on.
True.
Some of the ones featured in the Toys R Us catalog, it's like that's how I like knew what the hell Guess Who was, for example.
Yeah.
So I would like see it on the commercials and in the catalog, and they Crossfire's in here. I mean, like I didn't have Crossfire, but Crossfire was like
I loved it.
Heavily advertised as a kid. Do you remember that?
Yeah, absolutely. Crossfire. Y'all get caught in.
Yeah.
Of course. Sorry, Andrew Rogers. Yeah.
You get caught up in the crossfire.
We're seeing on here that this one's only 17 pages. I seem to remember by like the 90s, they were like 50 to 100. Like they were like thick. They were like books.
They were, and we'll probably talk about a 90s catalog in a little bit here. But the point that we're trying to make is throughout the 60s, the 70s, and especially in the 80s, when Saturday morning cartoons became very prominent, right? Especially in the 80s, when action figures started to become prominent, when video games started to become prominent, the store that was there with all of them was Toys R Us.
Oh, yeah. They were on top of any craze. G.I. Joes, Turtles,
Transformers,
Thundercats. And they had both genders too. So they had the Polly Pockets, the Barbies,
Cabbage Patch.
They had everything. They had absolutely everything.
Bikes to Trains of video games.
If you were a child, this is where you wanted to be. Did not matter.
Absolutely. And when you're a kid, I don't know if you guys know, this is deep philosophic statement. When you're a kid, you're smaller.
Yeah.
So when you're smaller, your surroundings look bigger and more imposing.
Well, yeah. And part of me wonders if Toys R Us was aware of this a little bit, because it was weird how like they were like stacked to the ceiling. So it looked like as a child, your perception was these were like skyscraper sized amounts of toys like going above your head.
It was like walking down the streets of New York City, with all the skyscrapers.
Except on the windows, it's all toys.
Absolutely.
It's all stuff you want.
And you're just traversing these canyons of toys.
And I remember also there was the aisles, but there was like a very large like front section too that just had like buckets of bouncy balls and like stuffed animals.
Just crap.
Yeah. And then there was the video game wall where
oh my God.
And Toys R Us, and I know a lot of people will remember this, they were notorious because they did their video games differently than everyone. Instead of having like the cartridges and the boxes and stuff, right?
Yep.
Toys R Us said, we got more than that. They had like an entire wall of the entire store, which was massive. And it was just little like pieces of like paper, essentially like placards that would have like a picture of the box or something. And then what you would do is there was like a tag on it and you would take it and then you'd bring it to the counter.
Yep.
And then they go get it for you.
Exactly.
Right. But like it made it seem like, holy crap. Here's an entire sector of Super Nintendo. Oh, yeah. And then Genesis. And then, hey, we got Turbo 6, Graphics 16. And we got fucking everything.
They didn't skimp, man.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk more Toys R Us memories, more things, and more history here. But obviously, the most important thing right now is for all of us to go to Children's Bargain Town and take a break real quick, okay?
Yeah.
Maybe see the Dr. Giraffe. One way or another, we're gonna come back to talk about Toys R Us in the 90s, some other things that happened with the Toys R Us branding, and some other competition that they might have faced in the 90s and 2000s. All of that is coming up on the other side of this break, when more Acid Wash Memories returns.
It's alright to tell me what you think about me. I won't try to argue or hold it against you. I know that you're leaving. You must have your reasons. The season is calling.
Toys R Us.
The world's biggest toy store.
Toys R Us.
So the boy fell asleep in the Toys R Us store, and he woke up with toys from the ceiling to the floor.
We've got the Nintendo Action Set, including the control deck with double game pack and Zapper light gun for just $99.99 at Toys R Us. And we have all the hottest game cartridges at great everyday low prices.
Love growing up with my Toys R Us kid. Toys R Us. You'll never outgrow us.
Did you read a book to the kids?
No, their friend Jeffrey said he'd read them one.
Who?
Ooh, and here on the next page, check out the Disney Princess toys. The interactive tea set. Ooh, mini princess doll set. Now that's a cute toy.
The Toys R Us Big Toy Book. Magical toys like Disney's interactive Princess Belle doll, Cinderella's musical castle with Cinderella and Prince Charming, or Disney's Princess Magic Talk Deluxe playset with Belle and Beast. Toys R Us. More fun, more choices, more ways to play.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to spit on you there, kids. I just get so excited.
What is that?
A Wendy's honey ham and chicken. Hey, that looks good. I'm gonna go get one.
Is that a marinated whole breast filet?
It sure is.
Unbelievable! Hey, did you get that here?
No, Wendy's.
Looks like a Dijon sauce to me, Chris.
It's got 2 slices of honey ham.
I'm hungry. Go to commercial.
Introducing Wendy's delicious new honey ham and chicken sandwich. But remember, you have to go to Wendy's to get it.
Now back to Chipper Jones.
Attaboy, Chipper. You're the man.
Try Wendy's new honey ham and chicken.
And now we return to more acid-washed memories.
Hey, welcome. You made it.
We're back.
You guys made it back.
Welcome back, Jeffrey.
This is Acid Wash Memories, episode 49. Joe Morata and Michael G. Quinn. There's a couple of things we'll just mention to the fans again, and we'll get back into the toy reminiscence here.
Toy.
Yeah, toy. We have a Twitter. You follow us on that at AWM Podcast. You can also join our Facebook group. It is Acid Washed Memories on Facebook. And also, we have a YouTube channel. And on this channel, occasionally, in addition to our normal episodes that are just uploaded there for reasons, I don't know if anyone's listening to this on YouTube, but if you are, leave a comment. Quinn will occasionally stream an old video game.
Yeah, I'll go play.
Yeah, go
just like at Toys R Us.
Exactly. He'll just play. So you can follow us at Acid Wash Memories on YouTube. And if you're into watching someone stream video games, well, the gentleman sitting with me here,
I do it sometimes.
He does it, and he does it on Twitch at SilentQ15.
That's my name.
SilentQ15.
That's what they know me as on the video games.
Yes, SilentQ, your handle. So anyway, follow SilentQ15 on Twitch if you want to, and follow us on the other things that we mentioned. But okay. We're talking about Toys R Us. Now, we all remember Toys R Us because it was ubiquitous, as we mentioned, and we want to hear your memories, folks. Yeah, going in there as a kid, there was nothing like it. And I'm not being facetious. Like, when it came to Toys R Us, especially for me, because it was a rare treat. And sometimes it was East Brunswick, where in the general vicinity of where I lived. But other times we'd visit my great-grandmother with my grandparents, my grandfather's mom, in Union City, and I would go to the Union City, New Jersey Toys R Us.
See, the thing is Toys R Us became more common for me because I lived next to it.
You live so friggin' close to it.
We lived literally next to it. We were like, we don't want to go to KB. That's like, it's not a hike or anything, but it's the other way down the highway. But it was
it's also worse.
It's still like my mom doesn't even have to get on the highway because it was like literally connected to us from like the back street or whatever.
Yeah, I know.
So it was like Toys R Us was the local toy store.
Yeah, and
I could walk to it.
See, what I'm interested in knowing about these fans that are listening is, was it your regular toy store? Like, where did you get your toys? Was it a special occasion like it was for me, or was it your regular toy store? Because I think that is an interesting discussion.
I really think that's just a matter of like location. That's it. Like,
it might be.
Because I don't see, like, honestly, it's a treat if it is a little out of the way. Right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you go to the closest, your parents aren't going to like, they're just going to take you to one that's next to them. They're not going to like make a whole freaking to-do unless they're looking for something very specific.
Very specific, exactly. Yeah. In the 80s, Toys R Us, at the height of their powers, right, decided, well, this is successful. Why don't we spin this off? And why don't we spin it off into, this is what kids love, a clothing store.
God.
And to really add insult to injury, this is the Mario is Missing of Toys R Us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kids R Us.
Now and now is what you'll find at Kids R Us. It'll wow you every time. Kids R Us.
First of all, I want to say this. As a child, this had already existed
this was
before I was
around.
born or whatever.
Yep.
So my whole life, Kids R Us existed, right? I remember very specifically being confused a lot of the times which one was which. For some, I don't know why. Like, I knew the names, but for some reason I just, because it was called Kids R Us, I figured, oh, it's got things for kids. Like, it was like some side store or something.
Yeah,
then,
like an adventure store or something,
yeah,
right?
like, I don't know. Like, I don't know why, but as a child, like, it was to the point where sometimes I had been to Kids R Us before,
right?
But it my parents knew I hated clothes shopping, so I feel like they would wait a long time until like I absolutely needed clothes, and then I get dragged to Kids R Us again, and I'd see the sign, and, oh, okay, and I get excited, and we walk in. Oh, this one, like, and then get all mad again. I hated it. I hated Kids R Us.
Well, I'm going to tell you, you've been very, very thought-provoking about the nomenclature of things.
Yeah.
Shouldn't this be Clothes R Us? Because the Toys R Us sells toys. Kids R Us doesn't.
I think I literally wondered this as a kid because I felt like I was like duped. Like,
it is dupey
multiple times
it's
until
dupey.
Like maybe I was like 7 or 8 years old and it finally started like the retention, like the memory retention.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I don't want to go there.
I'm telling you, man, I did get dragged here a few times as a kid. Just a couple times. And I was like, this has such a fun sounding name. And it's just I don't want to buy clothes, Mom.
I even remember, I swear they did this on purpose. The windows were like tinted or something, so that almost like will lull them in, like so the kids aren't like whining and complaining before they get it. And then those automatic doors would like swing open, and it was just aisles of clothes, and you'd be like, no.
It was so disappointing because you're so used to the colorful Toys R Us sign that in your kid brain you just associate like this is going to be like fun, right? Like this will be nice, and it's just a clothes store. It could be called anything. It could be called Steve's like discount clothing emporium.
Yeah, and the worst part too is they even had Kids R Us boxes. So when Christmas came along, and
I got one,
and you fucking saw Kids R Us, and again, another thing I swear they did on purpose.
Yes.
Is they like made the Kids R Us logo. It was like kind of like indented on it, but it wasn't in color. So like you would be tricked, and like it was like, oh God, I hated it so much. At least Macy's or Penny's would like say it in like bold letters on the clothes box.
Yeah.
But like Kids R Us is like, it's almost like when they give a kid a shot and they're like, they try to distract them or something, like while they're doing it.
Yes,
it's like Kids R Us, like it was like almost like their MO was to like trick you.
It's very deceptive.
Yeah.
And you know what?
But they might as well have had Doctors R Us too, because like that way they could trick kids into like Kids R Us was like experts at this shit.
Why don't you get a cough? Get some Medicine R Us. You know? Now, for those of you not familiar, you didn't miss anything. It was a discount clothing place in the vein of like a Shoppers World.
Yeah.
Remember those places?
But I feel that for children's clothing, it was successful because honestly, I felt like almost every kid in the neighborhood went there to get clothes.
I had stuff from there. I didn't go often, but I did have stuff
I
from
feel like
there.
my mom relied on it like exclusively because it was, I think it was because it's big and it's one-stop shop and it has all the sizes.
Yes.
And to parents, I think the size variety is very important to a kid.
Fair enough.
Because they're always growing, right?
They're growing, yes.
So it's like you have to have like a ton of sizes. So that's what these were. They were massive.
Kids R Us was successful. It operated for 20 years. It didn't close until 2003. I mean, it had a good run.
That wasn't surprising. I'm not exaggerating. Like the only reason I'm pretty sure it was successful is because it was so, like it was always busy.
Yeah.
There was always like tons of people in there.
Yeah, you got a good deal.
Now,
if you're
I
a
would say
parent.
the other thing they did, this might have been intentional. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I swear my mom definitely used it as a selling tactic to get me to go.
What is that, Quinn?
They always would put them very close to each other.
Oh, yeah,
within
of course.
like 1 minute driving distance. Like we're talking like maybe across the parking lot kind of situation.
Yeah,
like same plaza or whatever.
That was the norm, and a lot of them were dual locations.
Right.
Not the one we had.
But do you feel Toys R Us / Kids R Us that they were like in on it? Meaning, because it works.
It's a conspiracy?
It works twofold, right?
Okay. What
First of all, as far as the company is concerned,
yes,
parents can get clothes and they can get toys. One-stop shop. It's all in the same location.
2 birds, 1 stone.
Right. On the other hand, for kids, because kids are fussy and they're not rational and they don't listen, right? But you can coax a kid, hey, we have to go clothes shopping, but afterwards you can go look at stuff in Toys R Us. And that was like very alluring as a kid for whatever reason. It was like
still is. Looking at stuff is still fun.
It was like kryptonite for a child, right? You're like the temptation of, wait, we get to go in Toys R Us
and look at stuff
and maybe if you're really good, you could, and it's always like this little tiny thing that probably cost $1.
It's that gumball in the beginning when you walk in or whatever.
Yeah, it's like
the pallet with the dollar toy.
Yeah, the gumball machine. It's always like that's like it's like we didn't really want to buy you a toy, but it's like this.
We wanted to buy you clothes.
We wanted to buy you clothes, but we'll sacrifice like $2 or some shit to like so you get a little Batman guy or something.
Yeah,
you know
a guy.
what I mean? Yeah,
cost of doing business.
Yeah,
it's it's funny, Quinn, but it's true though. The psychology.
My mom, it was always these little like figurines, but they're ones that didn't have the bends. They were just rubber, and they were like
know the ones.
Batman or Robin or something.
Yeah.
Like, and they're like this big.
Sure.
And like that was like you can get one of those if you go to Kids. Like, and I, as an adult now, I realize that probably cost 50 cents.
Probably.
Like,
couch change.
Yeah.
I still like walking around. Do you ever go to Home Depot? You just look around.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something to
just looking around. Yeah.
I like it. Another offshoot of Toys R Us, much more successful actually, and better regarded because it did not affect us growing up, was Babies R Us in 1996 that launched.
My new collection at Babies R Us is truly scrumptious.
Very
But that's not going to
simple.
affect anyone because babies don't remember anything.
Exactly.
They could take a baby's like just look at it like you have a baby. He doesn't know what's going on.
No, he goes,
yeah.
But this doesn't have the negative connotation to kids of our generation, is what I mean.
Yes.
Like Kids R Us, and maybe we're the only two, but I don't think so.
Well, what about if you had to? You were I don't know 6, 7, 8. And your mom just had a baby and you got dragged in there.
To Babies R Us.
Right, because she had to shop for her newborn,
and you're
obviously,
like, where are the toys?
Or the dad did.
Right.
You know, one
That's
or the
true.
other.
I will say this. I will say that Babies R Us, I think they went under in 2018.
I felt like it was a little bit of a reach.
It was a little bit of a reach, but they were pretty good. We had our first son when they were still open.
Oh, you did?
And we actually might have had Babies R Us as one of our baby registries.
One of the weird things, though, about Babies R Us is that I always assumed about it was it felt like it's the exact same problem that Mr. Lazarus was running into, where it's like, how many times is somebody really going to come in here? I know. You have a child maybe once or twice, 3 times if you're lucky in your life, and they're that young that you need to get equipment for them.
Equipment?
Yeah, strollers, high chairs, that kind of thing.
When you wax poetic about the finer things in life.
Because you can go to Toys R Us even when they're very little and get stuffed animals.
Yeah, but not equipment.
Yeah, not equipment, but there's like baby equipment, and you know what I mean. You have it.
Give me an example.
A high chair. What who's going to use that other than a baby? I consider it baby equipment. These are things, a stroller, because they can't walk. You have to put them in something to get them around. You know what I mean? A crib.
Yes.
Because they can't sleep in a normal bed because you need baby equipment. You know? Like those teething rings.
That's equipment?
What adult human needs that? It's baby equipment. You see what I mean?
I got it, Quinn.
Yeah.
Why don't we take a dive here, folks? Again, we know you love listening to us read catalogs on this program, so turn it off now. But we're just going to skim through for our own amusement here.
By the time we get to the 90s, okay, now we have branding. It's like the big toy book and all this, or little book. I don't know.
So this is October of 1997. The little book of big toy deals, and without going through every single page, don't worry.
Those iguana things.
Those little iguana dinosaur things.
I think I had that snake on the top, Joe.
Yes,
and I remember I would
show the whole audience.
Right. But you remember those toy snakes? They were like rubber or whatever, right?
Yes, a rubber snake, I believe it's called.
Now, I don't know if my mom or my dad, they were like selling it or whatever, but I used to like sneak it into stuff and they'd act like it was like a whole, my mom especially would act like it's a whole thing. But
what do you think they were doing?
You think it was a big fraud?
I think you were being duped.
Yeah. I really thought I got it.
Did they buy the snake for you?
Yeah, probably. Well, how else would I get it? I don't have money. I'm a child.
That's the point. You don't have any equipment either, apparently. And they were doing, by this point, the early prototypes, and these happened in the 80s also, of like kid computers and stuff. Those are really cool.
I think I had one of these.
I had one.
Where it was like... I feel like they were like advanced Tiger Electronic games, but the whole concept was that like, here's like a keyboard and all this. Some of them had a mouse. Mine didn't. But essentially what it was to, believe it or not, there was a time when computers were not common.
Back in my day.
And it was considered educational to put a toy that was like a computer in a child's hands, right?
I had one, and I thought it was cool. My parents did too.
It didn't really do anything. It was just for you to like understand what it was.
True.
Oh man, R-Zone.
The Tiger R-Zone. Speaking of Tiger Electronics.
I had this. So this was Tiger's big play. It was
this
like
dumbass.
Our console, basically.
Looked like a futuristic pirate wearing this
So you look like a VR trooper or something when you had this on.
You look like something, Quinn.
Just when you thought the most sorry, pathetic excuse for a video game was the Tiger wrist games, oh no, imagine playing one of these up close to your eye in red and black.
I remember
that's equipment.
The concept of that you would, one eye would be the screen or whatever was like, I don't know, it felt very sci-fi.
Yeah, but not in a good way, like a bad sci-fi movie.
I had it.
Why?
I don't know why. I think that was a Christmas gift. I don't even think I asked for it. It was one of those.
Oh, okay.
So, it's like, isn't this neat? Let me guess. It's a Tiger Electronic thing, right? It means it's $25, maybe.
$29.99.
There you go. It's like, yeah.
Remember the Vortex Mega Howler football with the tail on it?
Oh my God, that thing was amazing.
When you threw it, yeah.
Yeah, and if you were a kid, right, you can't throw far, but when you throw that thing, it goes really far.
Yep, you feel like you're
Joe Namath.
Joe Montana.
Yeah, Joe Montana.
Joe Namath. Joe Mama. Anyway, Barbie.
I like how they're just selling straight up batteries. And
they know. They know.
Yeah.
Double A's, D's, and C's.
The D. That's the biggest.
Also, computer games, that was still a thing. People forget that. You used to have to buy computer games like in a box.
On CD-ROM.
On CD-ROM. Sometimes they come on like multiple floppies.
They did.
Occasionally.
But if you want to get your Cat in the Hat, it was only $40 on CD-ROM.
All sorts of, it's crazy. It's like Oddworld for PC. That was a PlayStation game.
Arthur also had stuff
Shadows of the Empire, too.
Shadows of the Empire. Board games, of course, are featured here. Monopoly Junior. You ever play Monopoly Junior?
No.
I never liked it.
Oh, wait. I did. I didn't mind Monopoly Junior, to be quite honest with you.
I liked Monopoly Senior.
My mom would play Monopoly Junior with me before I was old enough.
Did she sell that like the Rubber Snake too?
No. I mean, there's nothing,
nothing
to be afraid of in Monopoly
Did she kick
Junior.
your ass in it?
I don't remember.
Hope so.
My mom played by the rules. We like to play Trouble a lot. You play Trouble?
I played Trouble.
We used to play a lot of Trouble.
Is that where you the dice ball?
It's in the ball and you have to land in the right and get in the safe spot and all that.
I know that one. You need kid equipment like baseball bats.
Yeah, now this stuff, this was kind of like a strange thing for Toys R Us, the idea of selling sports equipment, right? Because
they're crossing over into Herman's territory.
And Dick's and all that. Yeah, the thing that they did is they would sell kid-sized stuff.
Yes.
This really was the domain of Sports Authority, and they were encroaching, if you ask me.
They were with the Easton aluminum bats that every little leaguer had.
Yeah, these were legit stuff for sports.
Yeah.
This was not kids crap. It was real brands.
It was real brands. And they had little stuff for little kids. You get, the little car, the classic.
The fucking Jeep thing.
The Cozy Coupe. Yeah, the Jeep
also
Wrangler.
The Cozy Coupe, but the Fisher-Price Coupe thing.
Yeah, loved it. This happens to be October, so there's a lot of Halloween costumes.
Oh, right. It was monthly by this point, right?
Yep. Got a green M&M in here that's very timely.
God, the costumes... I don't remember them being too big on the costumes.
No,
my parents would go to a Halloween store.
You had it wasn't Spirit of Halloween we didn't have. It was Everything Halloween was the original one.
It was one of those pop-up shops or whatever.
Yep.
We didn't go to Kids or Toys R Us. Why didn't Kids R Us have the costumes? They're the clothes people.
They should have.
Yeah.
They dropped the ball.
Yeah.
Those fucking assholes.
Why is Toys R Us having to handle this?
I don't know.
Imagine the people at Toys R Us are people stocking themselves. This sucks.
We're
just
is terrible.
wasting space, right?
Get your action figures here, such as the Power Rangers, the Dukes of Hazzard 90s
I see
figures.
Lost World Jurassic Park. Just a T-Rex with a fucking thing on its face.
It looks really dumb.
To prevent it from opening its mouth. Remember because they took it to New York idiots?
Yes.
It's let's show it off. It's a ferocious beast. What are you, insane? That movie always bothered me.
Yeah, I understand.
It spent half the movie escaping them, and then they're let's bring it back with us. It's what?
If you wanted to, by the way, in '97, you could get Liar Liar on VHS cassette for $14.99.
Also, it looks like Disney took Old Yeller out the vault.
Yeah, they did.
In this season,
they did. They pulled him out, and you can get a talking 14-inch Little Penny Hardaway if you wanted to.
It's really weird.
What it is.
The fake rollerblades and all that stuff. You remember this?
The inline skates, they called them. That's the ones where you could, you could take the wheels out and make them skates and
you
put them in.
You could be roller skates or rollerblades.
I thought those were cool. I didn't have them, but I always thought they were interesting.
Now, were you as a kid? Now, I liked both rollerblades and roller skates, but I felt like they had their instances, right? For example.
Oh, God.
I liked roller skates at the roller rink. They were cooler because you could do you can kind of go scoop down.
He's
and
making
you could
a dog taking a shit motion.
You can balance on them though.
Squat
because they had four wheels. Plus the brakes were in the front, which I always thought was really cool on them, right?
Yes.
But on the rollerblades, they were way better for the streets, in my opinion.
The blades,
and plus you had the back brakes instead of forward
you
brakes.
lean back on your heels.
Yeah. I don't know. I just my humble opinion.
Folks, let us know. Blades or Skates, do the AWM podcast on Twitter. You can get Goosebumps books and stuff like that. But the video games here, I think this would be interesting because
this is first of all, we're at the point in time where they hog up most. Look, we're on page 44 and there's 52 pages left, and now it's probably just all video games.
Probably a few pages. Now, this is the discount page here, and what I mean is we got Genesis for $14.97 and Super Nintendo for $19.97.
It's really cheap for that.
Yeah, but the games we're talking are Family Feud, Caesar's Palace.
But there's a lot of good shit on here, too.
It's old.
Mega Man X?
Yeah, but this is 97. That came out in 94. Do you get what I mean?
I think it came out in 93, actually. Mega Man X.
The Lion King. These are all older games, but hey, you could pick them up for a kid that might really want to play the Jungle Book on
Not to mention, your older child might have the new system.
Yeah,
and
true.
And the younger one gets the hand-me-down.
Yeah,
so then you don't have to spend as much on new games.
Good.
Virtual Boy on sale, Joe.
$30.
Yeah, this is after they totally fucked up on this.
I can't believe they were still selling it in October of 97.
Well, they had to get rid of them somehow.
They had to, yeah. And all these games look like ass.
Do you remember the hype for this thing? It was going to be the biggest. This is going to blow your ass off. The virtual reality, man.
Should we do an episode on that one day?
Yeah, it is. Now the kids cam here. What is this all about? Real video camera for kids.
I remember seeing this, but I think it was just a very. It's $50, and for back then, a palm quarter would have been $300 probably.
Yeah.
It's got to be an El Cheapo.
But I wonder what it's recording on. It says it plugs into the VCR.
Yeah, but it's not a camera. Like,
I wonder if it's an early digital where it only holds like 15 seconds or something on it.
You only record with the VCR. It'll give you the picture. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, we just wanted to give you a little taste of some of the toys.
We missed one of the best things on the back.
I'm sorry, Quinn. You're right.
They have those remote control cars, but the ones where the wheels are bigger than the car so that it could flip over and stuff.
I actually
that thing was
those.
amazing.
I had that.
I had that thing. It was freaking awesome.
It was Tyco.
Remember, you could go up and downstairs.
Yes.
It somehow could it had a
figured shit out.
Yeah, you would just run it into the steps and it would somehow flip over onto the next step, and then you could go downstairs too and it wouldn't break.
It would correct itself basically.
Yeah.
Those were really cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a sampling, folks. Obviously, there were other toys, and sorry if we didn't mention your favorite one.
But I think what this exemplifies to me, right,
yes,
is the variety.
The variety
that Toys R Us had. We just went through 2 catalogs.
Yep.
Not a little earlier, we went to the other catalog.
Yes.
If you're just joining us on this.
Yeah, after the commercial break.
Fast forward it or something. I don't know. But
unless they're playing this on some radio station somewhere.
But the point remains is that before this, you go to Toys R Us and I don't know, maybe they have 1 or 2 remote control cars, a couple of video games,
right? Yeah,
some balls and cups, and that was it. And Toys R Us just said, "What if we just had all of them? Yeah. Every toy that exists." That's what it was.
That's what they shot for. Now it did
all ages too.
All ages. It did withstand other competition. Competition that started right around the same time, if not a little after or before. One of them was Lionel Kitty City, which was founded in 1957.
Today, a new economic theory. Now you can get something for nothing. At Lionel Kitty City, you can get all of these great toys for nothing. Well, actually, you do have to enter at Lionel Kitty City to win $500 worth of your favorite toys.
This was a good alternative for me as a kid. I actually did go to it a few times. So it was founded in 57, grew throughout the 60s and 70s, and at one point, despite it sounding dinky and irrelevant now, it was the second largest in the U.S.
I mean, if it's the Toys R Us model where it's just a warehouse full of toys,
pretty much.
The thing is, Toys R Us had expanded so much that if you were doing the same thing as them, you were by default number 2, right?
Because remember, KB wasn't doing the same thing as them.
Yeah. Now KB went for a totally different route.
Yes.
Right. It was just tiny little stores, but way more of them.
Way more of them because they're in malls and stuff. Lionel Kitty City peaked over 100 stores, but wound up filing for Chapter 11 twice, in 1982, and then they filed again in 1991, and unfortunately closed all their stores in 1993, which is why I do remember it.
I don't really remember going to this, but I remember it existing. I remember hearing about it. We can go to Lionel Kitty. It's no, I want to go to Toys R Us.
It wasn't bad, though. I'm going to be honest with you. The one over here was not bad.
But again, I might have not recency bias, but regency bias, meaning it was because it was Toys R Us was literally down the street from me. There was no purpose
you're right.
ever going to any other toy store.
Oh, you're totally right. I get it.
In fact, I always found KB to be a downgrade, and it was we're just because we're here.
See, I had the reverse in the sense that KB was my default, so Toys R Us was
it was closer to you.
It was closer to me, and it was also my mom preferred going there. But so Toys R Us was the upgrade for me.
Right.
KB was just my baseline. Now, that's one I don't think I remember. I don't know where our nearest one was. Child World. Do you remember that at all? I don't. Is anyone out there?
I kind of remember that.
Do you? Okay.
Sort of. I feel like it was on Route 1 or something.
You see, that's the thing. You might, because here's the deal. Founded in 62, again, right around the same time. And at one point, they operated almost 200 locations. So they were another major player, but started having their financial issues in the late 80s and early 90s. And by 92, closure started. And by April of 92, you guessed it, our favorite chapter, 11.
These go to 11.
Is a lot of this due to this? There was a point where I feel like there was a mass saturation of Toys R Us, where it was there just was no competing with. They were everywhere.
Right.
They would just appear in places hey, we're building a new Toys R Us here. You'd see it on the side of the road.
Well, it's no different than what the Sports Authority did to Herman's and what Home Depot did to Rickle. And things like that, and it's very, very similar.
It's just they're massive, and there's a lot of them,
and they have a lot of capital. Yeah, exactly. So what's interesting here is Child World and Kitty City had an attempted merger to like salvage their ship. But
we're going to join forces and then we can beat Toys R Us, right?
But it fell through. And Child World actually went under a little bit before Kitty City. It went under in September of 92. Yeah.
Child World, everything a toy store should be.
Now, another thing about KB, and this is the last we're going to hear of them, is they opened in 1994 KB Toy Works in strip malls. And these were
trying to make big ones.
Larger than normal, and they attempted to compete. I don't think that we had one near us because I've never seen that.
But I can see why, because by the mid-90s, I swear, I felt like there was only two left standing, and it was Toys R Us and KB, and they were like mortal enemies. Like they were like they were completely different style stores. Like they were very different.
I don't know, man. They're like the Beatles and the Doors to me, or something. Like they have nothing to do with each other.
KB was small but packed with toys. Toys R Us was like
vast.
It was vast and wide, and like there was like a lot of toys too.
Right.
But it was like they were like palaces in comparison.
Oh, it was totally different, yeah.
Yeah, it was a completely different style.
It's true. Unfortunately, a lot of the things we talk about fall in some way, and Toys R Us was no exception. Now, let's talk about that. We talked about the height. We talked about the experience of being a kid. Here's a little bit of the history of what happened. So this is one thing. It's not the internet only. There's several factors.
Yeah, and I was saying this to you, right?
Yeah.
This is a rare situation where it's a style of store that can't really be replicated by the internet, and I'll tell you why. You can't show a kid a computer screen and give them the same experience of going in the store, right?
I don't think so.
Kids want to touch stuff. They can't like touch the toys computer screen. It's not the same thing.
I agree. I think the market for a toy store hadn't evaporated.
Like I still think now that like Target and Walmart are like the primary toy stores, like I still think that that's a draw for children to go and, I can see the cars and touch them and play with them kind of.
Let me put it this way. Anytime my wife or I tells my 6-year-old that we have to go to Target, like one of us has to go to Target, is like, can I come?
Yeah.
And why do you think that is?
Exactly.
Look at the toys.
And that's what I mean is like it being on the internet, it's not enough. It's not enough for a child.
It's not enough. I mean, we still get catalogs, and that's still what we were as kids.
It's just absolutely not enough. So that's why to me it was like weird that Toys R Us would ever go out of business. Like that's baffling.
Well, it was a case of not managing money properly, and they had been public now, and there was something in 2005 was a leveraged buyout without getting into the economics that I don't quite fully wrap my head around anyway. Basically, a leveraged buyout is when you're using debt as your collateral for a loan. In very layman's terms, best I can, folks. But it's basically like you take out a mortgage, but then you don't have a supply of income, and the income runs out. So basically, you run up your debt if you're not making enough to cover your debt. And by 2006, Toys R Us's debt had tripled because of this leveraged buyout. Tripled their debt. They were already having problems, right?
So they basically were put in a position where they would never be able to pay it back.
Correct. And again, like we're trying to say, folks, it's very easy to say, well, the internet. You got to remember something. ToysRUs.com was very, very popular.
Yeah.
They were on the internet. It's not like they got shoved out.
They didn't have like a Blockbuster problem.
Right.
Like it's not like that.
They had the internet. They were on the internet.
Yeah. It's not like they didn't exist either.
Right.
So it's like, that's what's so weird about it, right? Like, again, it still has a reason to have a store because kids, right? Kids don't give a shit about the internet.
No, they want to go to the store.
They want to see the toys, right?
One of the things you mentioned them earlier, Walmart, Target, what they did is something that Toys R Us had done previously. They came in with lower prices.
Yep.
Target and Walmart. And they were convenient because the mom or the dad taking their kid or their family for other things now doesn't have to drive to another store.
Yeah.
But can go to a toy aisle where the toys are cheaper than Toys R Us.
But the cost is not as much toys,
not
right?
as much.
And that's, to me, again, Toys R Us still, even with that, they still had an advantage.
They still did, but
they had all of the advantages, which is why it's so weird.
Well, I guess also, Quinn, part of the luster, I think, was just taken off of that 80s, 90s Toys R Us when you can go to Target or Walmart. I think in the consumer mind, I'm not talking about the kids because they're not the consumers, right?
They aren't.
The parents. it made Toys R Us now become this antiquated, expensive toy store versus the convenience of
it made Toys R Us more of an event for a child than it was like a regularity.
Right.
Like, because in the 90s, like I said, because it was the local, that's where we got the toys.
Sure.
Like, there was no alternative, right?
I know. But there were, by the 2000s, and as the 2000s rolled on, it wasn't that Toys R Us was doing really horribly. It's just that they could never get out of their debt. So I guess in that sense, they were doing hard. But like, they had an online presence. You know what I mean? They weren't obstinate. Like, no, only brick and mortar.
It's interesting. They did all of the things. They modernized. Yeah. Right. It's just like they fucked up with their money or whatever.
Yep.
Like, it's just really weird.
They bit off more than they could chew for a period of time. And, also there was a recession. We all know this in 2008.
Yeah.
So that also might have played a part in the retail apocalypse, that went on after that. Because that's when all this stuff, the paradigm shifted.
But another term that came out of that was too big to fail. And Toys R Us felt like one of those.
They did, because they had the branding, they had the legacy, right? The monopoly.
In most people's eyes, even up to the end, they were the toy store.
Yeah.
They were just it. They survived past KB. KB was around, but like
KB's still around.
Their presence was not the same anymore, right?
That's true. So in September of 2017, though, unfortunately, Toys R Us filed for, you guessed it, Chapter 11, citing a $5 billion debt.
Now, see,
that's a lot of money, just for the record.
I understand that, but that's what Chapter 11's for.
That's
right?
correct, Quinn.
So what I find interesting here is Toys R Us feels like they're one of those perfect Chapter 11 candidates, right? Because if they could just get out of the debt, take the credit hit or whatever, they're still obviously like a business that has a demand, right? It's like they could just shut down some locations and rebuild.
Yeah.
Right? Like, why did that not happen with Toys R Us?
Let's get into it. So just for the record, its last profitable year had been 2013.
Okay.
And they filed in 2017. So they were not doing great. Okay. And in 2018, liquidation began. Sell off, assets, sell off property.
Which is expected. But again, this is still a business that has a demand.
Correct.
Right? So you would think they could rebuild.
Well, the online store was also shut down in 2018. And by Christmas of that year, this is the first time in over 60 years that Toys R Us did not have a presence for the holiday toy season. Isn't that crazy? Christmas of 18. But at the same time, they were developing a new concept known as Jeffrey's Toy Box, which was a mini store that would essentially have like display area in bigger stores like supermarkets and department stores and buildings of some kind. I've never seen one.
I never saw one.
Let us know if you have.
Toys R Us may have disappeared for this holiday season, but its mascot, Jeffrey the giraffe, is resurfacing at Kroger. Now, Kroger has teamed up with the hedge fund owners of the Toys R Us brand to bring Jeffrey's Toy Box sections to about 600 Kroger grocery locations between now and Christmas.
But it means that the company was still coming up with stuff, right?
We interrupt this bullshit for a special news bulletin.
Yes, hello everyone. This is Joe from the Acid Wash Memories program, coming to you from the Acid Wash Memories editing suite here in post-production. I'm here with a bit of an appendix, bit of an apology to our Canadian fans out there. You see, even though this was obviously a well-researched, well-thought-out episode by the bigwigs over in Ogden, Utah, there is one critical component of this whole entire Toys R Us story that was missing, that being Toys R Us Canada. So you haven't heard about it yet up to this point, and you won't hear about it after this. But I did want to make one point here about Toys R Us Canada. In 2018, during the whole liquidation bankruptcy era for Toys R Us, the Canada branch was actually split off into a different company that did not go into liquidation, that survives to this day. And as we speak, as of press time, there are 81 Toys R Us locations operating in Canada, our friendly neighbors to the north. So those of you in Canada, you are not sharing in the pain that Quinn and myself and everyone else in the United States and the rest of the world are with the forlorn loss of Toys R Us. No, you are basking in the toy glory that is Toys R Us Canada. And for that, we envy you, we appreciate you, and you have my sincerest and humblest of apologies for somehow omitting this from the episode, despite knowing about it in the back of my mind. I apologize. I love you. Quinn, any words?
Well, to be fair, does anyone even care about Canada?
Thank you, Quinn. Definitely the real Quinn. So thank you. We apologize to you in Canada. I hope you stay warm up there, and I promise to try poutine one day. I promise I will. Also, something about hockey. All right, let's pick up the United States and rest of the world version of the story right here. And they emerged from bankruptcy in January of 2019 and opened up 2 stores. One in Houston. That's in Texas.
Shut up.
The other one at Garden State Plaza.
But again, this is pitiful.
2 stores.
Yeah, this is.
They had a lot, but
again,
now 2.
You would think, right? Again, this is another situation. We have a demand, and we have a product and a business, and yada.
I know, but
what the hell?
The void was being filled by that point, Quinn. Think about it.
Is it though? Because
I think so.
I'll tell you what.
From a consumer point of view, yes.
I've had to buy.
From a kid experience, no.
I've had to buy Christmas and birthday gifts for kids, and I go to that toy section in Target, and it's freaking pitiful compared to Toys R Us. It's horrible, Joe.
It's not supposed
I want to go to Toys R Us to get these gifts. I don't want to go to crappy Target. They got a couple of aisles, and half of it's like little kid stuff. Where's the Batman and stuff like that? Where's G.I. Joe?
Do you have the internet?
I know,
That's
but I shouldn't have to do that.
You are the one person, I think, that would be like, no, this is too convenient. I need to go to the store.
I get it, but if I had a kid and you have a kid, they don't want to go on the internet.
I don't care. If I want to buy him something of my own time and money, I'm going to buy it the easiest way possible.
Now, was he too young by the time Toys R Us was gone?
He doesn't know. He doesn't remember Toys R Us now.
That is a shame.
I'm very sorry, Quinn. We can have him listen to this one day, okay?
It's an absolute travesty.
I'm very sorry.
Like kids don't get to experience that at this point.
I agree with you. I totally do. But the website did come back in October of 2019.
Well, good.
And here's what they did. As a fulfillment partner, they took on Target for a year in a 1-year contract. So basically, Target would actually fulfill the orders through the Toys R Us website. They'd partner up. And then Amazon took that over in 2020 as Toys R Us's fulfillment partner.
I think what those brands, Amazon and Target, know is that to at least parents, they know what the hell Toys R Us is.
Yes.
And the brand is valuable.
Absolutely. And I think that also, booking fee, finder's fee, whatever the arrangement is. I don't know the finer details, but basically use the Toys R Us name to get to the Amazon and the Target inventory.
Right.
You know what I mean? If it works for them, great. At least Toys R Us was getting a cut of something.
I long for I want them to they're one of those companies that I'm weirdly rooting for. Like, I don't like a lot of companies, but man,
like a lot of companies.
This shit was like kid heaven. Like, what?
I know, Quinn,
how could this not exist? It's just a happy thing for like the world or whatever.
Well, the story still continues because remember those 2 stores that they opened in 2019? Well, the pandemic that we had, you might have heard of it, that forced the closure of those 2 stores in 2021.
That's just annoying.
But in December of 2021, a brand new Toys R Us store opened. You know where it was, Quinn? In fucking Xanadu, which is now known as the American Dream.
Fucking Xanadu.
Mall.
Nobody goes there. It's a joke. Get out of here.
Can you very briefly, for those that aren't in the Meadowlands vicinity, explain why we have a problem with Xanadu?
So,
very briefly.
I don't know, 20 years ago or something, all of a sudden this thing appeared off the New Jersey Turnpike, and it's like tall and it looks weird, and it's like the shape of this structure is strange. Everyone's like, they're building a ski thing in it or whatever.
Like indoor skiing or something?
Right.
What was it?
It just looks weird. And like, it's this huge complex, right?
Yes.
But what happened was, like I said, 20 years ago or whatever, maybe 15. When did it like?
I feel like it was in the early like McGreevy was governor, wasn't he?
It's like an insanely long time ago, right? But why do I keep saying an insanely long time ago? Because it took like 15 years to open or something. Like, it was like a joke. Like, people would like look at it and just be like, make jokes about it. It had a dumb fucking name, Xanadu, and it looked stupid, and it never like opened. And it was like, a monumental occasion. It was like a new book in the Bible was being written or something. Like when they opened this thing up, right? It was like a new epoch in the history of Earth. Like, you know what I'm trying to? You know what I mean? It's like a different era. There's like pre-Xanadu, which is like BC, like it's like many, many, many years, and then finally Xanadu opens up, and it's like it's the new era or something. But the thing is it opened up, and I think I went to it with my friend once, and I was like, this is it. It's just like a crappy like mall, but pretty empty and nothing's in it.
And it opened up right before the pandemic in late 2019.
Horrible. Like it's not like all these years of like, wow, look at this thing or whatever, and like it sucks.
I looked it up. It was 2002 when the Xanadu project started.
Horrible. When did it open? Like 2 years ago?
So
it
took 17 years.
I was close. It was like 20 years.
Yes.
This Toys R Us is located at the American Dream Mall in East Rutherford, New Jersey.
I guess Toys R Us, though, Xanadu, so the problem that Xanadu had was that it was such a joke. I swear, like, when it opened, there was probably a lot of people still thought it was still being built.
I did. I was like, that's really open?
Yeah, like, people
talking about?
Like, it was literally like people in New Jersey did not believe when other people said it was open. Like, that's how long it took to build.
Listen, we were like 16, 17 when they started building it, and then we were like in our mid-30s when it opened.
There was children born and like getting their driver's licenses by the time Xanadu opened.
It's embarrassing. But the reason we're mentioning all this is that's where Toys R Us is right now.
Yeah.
And in 2022, stores started opening within Macy's locations.
Good.
That is currently where they are right now. There's 400 of them within Macy's. There's 2 freestanding, actual, honest-to-God Toys R Us's.
Like true Toys R Us.
Old school, right? But there are 400 or so that are operating within Macy's, Quinn.
Come on, and Macy's honestly needs the tag team because Macy's is like hanging on by a damn thread at this point.
They're going to go the way of Sears if they're not careful. So yes, today Toys R Us exists. It is no longer the unstoppable force that it was when we didn't want to grow up. But then again, hardly anything is, Quinn. I mean, nothing is quite the same.
It's just, like I said, and I'll restate it one more time before we go. It's upsetting because Toys R Us feels like it actually has a purpose to exist on like Blockbuster or even Macy's.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean?
Post office now.
Yeah.
Kidding.
But it does, right? Like it actually, like kids want to actually be near the toys. You know? Like,
yeah, of course.
They're not like adults where we can just look on the internet and order it and have some patience. Like they're children.
That's true, Quinn. So yeah, for Toys R Us, the future is uncertain, but what is for sure is that the name Toys R Us still evokes those memories, the thrills, the excitement of being a kid. And most of all, it truly is an acid-washed memory. Would you agree?
I agree.
Folks, we want to hear your acid-washed memories about Toys R Us and your experiences, or maybe it was Child World. Or Lionel Kitty City. What do you think of kid equipment, baby equipment?
Or Xanadu.
Or Xanadu.
I'm sure that now we probably opened the damn floodgates.
Good.
Everyone in the New York Metro has like an opinion of Xanadu.
We want to hear your Xanadu opinions as well. And of course, let us know your thoughts on KB. All of that good stuff. Do it on Twitter at AWM Podcast. And you can also join our Facebook group. But one way or another, we thank you for joining us. We will be back next week for our big 50th episode with something completely different. Do not you worry.
Xanadu, the complete history.
Xanadu, the story. Until that time, I am Joe Murata. That is Michael Quinn. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next week for more Acid Wash Memories.
See ya.
Like what you heard? Be sure to leave a review and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. We will see you next week.